All right, thank you everyone for joining our special Women in Big Data featured event today, celebration of women's unity as we celebrate diversity and inclusion with a very special group of ladies today. If you don't mind muting, we are going to be talking about how Alpha girls are amplifying voices today. Before we start, our agenda today is our first 15 minutes. We'll have a warm welcome. We'll talk about different ways that you can contribute to Women in Big Data now that we are a nonprofit organization. We'll also have a renewed vision, mission, and story that we'll share with you. And then finally, we'll go into our featured panelists and wrap up with prizes. So the first 10 folks who did dial in, lucky you, guess what? You guys get a prize from Women in Big Data. You all get holiday gifts. So make sure you stay until the end. We will be writing down the names and we will be getting that to you. So yay. Just before we kick off the event, I wanted to share with you a special drink that was developed for Women Big Data. It's called the Pink Lady Drink, and I've already created one right here. And what it is if you do the boozy version, all it is passion fruit drink, and then the other half is your choice of your favorite champagne. So it could be Prosecco, it could be your favorite Asti. And for those of you who are looking for something non-boozy, what you can do is have the passion fruit drink with a lemon lime soda. And the healthy version is you can throw in a few blueberries and also a lime, and then you now have a healthy antioxidant vitamin C drink to join us with today. As you guys are preparing your drinks, what we want to kick this event off with is we wanted to tell you and share with you how fast Women Big Data has been growing and what that looks like. So since 2015, we started out with only 15 people. Now we were over 17,000. And what does that mean worldwide? What do those faces look like? How do they sound? And what is diversity inclusion really? With diversity is a series of individual perspectives, but together we become one as Women in Big Data. So with that, I will share with you a very special video that we've put together for you, as well as a short clip where you'll hear from our original founder, executive sponsor, Michael Green. And here it is.
Hi, I'm Anastasia Dobasis from Düsseldorf, Germany. I am a woman in Big Data.
Hi, my name is Anushka Singh and I am from Los Angeles, California, and I am a woman in Big Data.
I am Diana Shaw in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I am Women in Big Data.
I am Maud in Johannesburg, South Africa. I am Women in Big Data.
Hi, I am Dr. Ekta Mehul from Gujarat, India. I am a woman in Big Data.
I am in Mountain View, California, United States. I am a woman in Big Data.
I am Johanna from Johannesburg, South Africa. I am Woman in Big Data.
Hi, I'm Juliet in Düsseldorf, Germany. I am a woman in Big Data.
I'm Kaushik Mohanraj from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I am part of Women in Big Data.
Hi, my name is Zesuli Lengobese, currently based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I am Women in Big Data.
This is Laura from Mala, Pakistan, and I am a woman in Big Data.
Hi, I am Lisa Chesop in Düsseldorf, Germany. I am Woman in Big Data.
Hi, I'm Lily Lam from Toronto. Sambo in Johannesburg, South Africa. I am Women in Big Data.
Hi, I'm Meena Arunachalam, and I'm from Portland, Oregon, USA, and I am a woman in Big Data.
I am Naya Dunya in Munich, Germany. I am woman in big data.
I'm Naomi Mulife in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm a woman in big data.
Hi, I'm Sapna Tandukar. I'm from Kathmandu, Nepal, and I'm woman in big data.
I'm Nobile in Pretoria, South Africa. I'm a woman in big data.
I am Sarah Barnett in San Diego, California, and I am in big data.
Hi, my name is Soumya Moni. I'm from Bangalore, India. I'm a woman in big data.
I'm Sarah. I'm Shivani from Los Angeles, and we're women in big data.
This is Tina Rosario in Paris, France. I am Women in Big Data.
Prison of Tisha from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I am woman in
I am Nampumelelo Sinamo. I am woman in big data.
Hi, I'm Ramalingam from St. Louis, Missouri, USA. I am a woman in big data.
This is Hafsa from Gujarat, Pakistan, and I am women in big data.
Congratulations are in order to the members and leadership of the Women in Big Data as they continue to make progress toward closing the gender gap in big data. I feel tremendous joy and pride as I watch a new set of leaders emerge and hit the brains, increasing the breadth of the organization and growing its impact well into the future. I am Michael Green, the sponsor of Women in Big Data. Congratulations.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. It really is incredible how all this started out with just one person. And I know many of you talk about, what drives your passion and what you bring to Women in Big Data, but imagine what you can do if you have the lens of love and compassion. That only magnifies. So with that said, we now reach our next topic, which is how to donate. We will have Radhika Rankarajaran, who is the co-founder of Women in Big Data. She is a recognized community leader. Her passion is in strengthening diversity and inclusion in tech. She serves on the executive committee and board for the Women in Big Data organization and works closely with several Silicon Valley tech companies to raise awareness and move conversations to commitment for increasing diversity in tech. She is currently the director of Cloud Foundation Solutions Engineering at VMware. Radhika?
Thank you so much, Elaine. Wow, the beautiful faces in that video, my goodness. There's just so much energy in there. I was literally jumping off my seat here. But if we could just move on to the next slide. And I think Elaine actually talked about this. Ideas that you get in Idleways shall never be underrated. This is what we learned because literally 5 years ago, it was merely a conversation that a few of us had when we were at Intel talking about how do we improve diversity in our teams. There's just so much talk about this, but do we really sense that around us? And what you saw in the video, Michael Green, he was a VP, and he actually, when we went to him and said, hey, we are not sensing that kind of diversity and inclusion in our teams, he said, well, is this just specific to Intel, or could this be actually a problem across the industry? So I will sponsor this effort. Why don't we guys actually get together and do something about it? And that's literally how it started. So we reached out to our friends, and that's what you see in the second bubble. A bunch of us got together, 15 of us got together in a conference room, and we talked about, and we could see heads nodding in agreement saying that, yeah, pretty much I'm the only person, only woman in my team. And what should we do about it? Is it lack of awareness? Is it lack of training opportunities? Is it lack of networking or mentoring? That's essentially how we started. We self-organized, and look where we are today. It's an amazing group. Literally, I can say that we have all actually grown with this organization, and we've expanded this family. We are 17,000 members worldwide. And at this point, I'm personally losing count of number of chapters we are launching, because until this morning I was under the impression we had 37 chapters, and Shala corrected me in saying no, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Nigeria, we are launching. So we are literally actually growing as we speak, and we have seen tremendous amount of support from industry and academia sponsors and partners. And over the course of the 5 years, We've actually learned so much by delivering training, networking events, working with our community, and getting to a nonprofit status in the US just allows us to do more. We are already established as a nonprofit organization in Canada and South Africa, and you saw in that video how many representatives we have from South Africa. So this is, and we're just getting started. We're just getting started at this. So as part of this, I just want to share with everyone how you can continue to support us. So Elaine, if we can just move on to the next slide. And I know we're going to touch upon this towards the end of this conversation as well. You can go to our website, and there's actually an integrated donate button in there. There's a lot of holiday shopping coming on. So if you would like, you can actually go to smile.amazon.com and choose Women in Big Data as a beneficiary for all your purchases. So that's another way to contribute to us. Or if you work in one of the tech companies that actually has a matching one-to-one program, that's an amazing way to contribute, because for every dollar that you actually contribute to the organization, there is a matching dollar that comes from your company. So plenty of ways, and all of this is completely tax deductible. And in addition to all of this, if you want to actually give your volunteering hours, skill sets, that's absolutely welcome as well. So with that, back to you, Elaine.
Okay, thank you, Radhika. All right, so next we have Ryan Alker. He's going to talk about our renewed mission, vision, and the Women in Big Data story. She is on the Women in Big Data Advisory Board. She is also a digital transformation master at the American Family Enterprise. Ryan believes in the pursuit of happiness in tandem with a commitment to a net positive impact on the world and its inhabitants. An optimist with a talent for empathy, she believes the best way to start shaping the future comes from the thoughtful imagining of the future that we want to see. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ryan. And if anyone is not speaking, if you could mute your line, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. So I am just going to go over our new narrative. We have a new status, and with it, an increased scope. And so what we've done is we have renewed our mission and vision and the narrative that goes along with it. We developed these pieces of our story with an eye to the future, to acknowledge our newly increased scope. And I'm really excited to be able to share it with you. So without further ado, here's our narrative. Women in Big Data started as a grassroots organization in 2015 with the mission to inspire and connect women in big data careers. Starting with 15 members and one chapter in San Francisco's Bay Area, the Women in Big Data community grew to over 17,000 members across 39 chapters and 6 continents, spreading inspiration, growing networks, and promoting member success on an ever-expanding platform. In 2020, the organization filed paperwork that shifted Women in Big Data from grassroots to nonprofit, expanding funding capabilities and laying a foundation for a new mission. The founders realized that, as important as inspiration and connection are, their ability to move the needle on a future in which gender and resources don't limit equitable participation is finite. A new mission was outlined to cultivate tangible opportunities, unlock latent potential, act as a catalyst for advancement, and empower equity allies of any gender. Women in Big Data is an inclusive community who appreciate that, in the broadest sense, big data is a tool being harnessed at every level in every industry today to shape tomorrow. Broader diversity among leaders and practitioners will improve the use and function of big data, ensuring a future that's better for all of us. And I just have to say that I am so delighted to be a part of this, because what a powerful mission and vision and organization that has been developed. And so with that, I will turn it over to Elaine again.
All right, thanks, Ryan. And just want to add that she was instrumental in developing that. So thank you, Ryan, for sharing our new renewed mission. All right, now this is the event we're waiting for, and I would like to hand the mic over to Shuchi Rana, who is our panel moderator. She is the co-director of Women in Big Data Silicon Valley chapter and is also the head go-to-market for Headspin. She's a big believer in the power of technology innovation to bring about change. Her life's passion is to bring together the best minds in technology and investors to grow a community of innovators to exchange ideas and bring projects to life, and thus helping to create a measurable social impact. With that, I hand it over to Shuchi.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for the intro. I am truly overjoyed for the opportunity to be able to have this conversation with two amazing women that I feel have, in some shape or form, shaped who I am. And they're just forces of nature. So thank you for being a stand, setting a tone, a standard for us to be in this world. I absolutely admire the clarity and conviction you show up with every day. So thank you again for being here. Thank you both for taking the time, Audrey and Julian. And I know I can't do your intro justice, so maybe I will give each of you a minute to quickly talk to us about yourself, about your work, and what really got you to the realization that this is your life purpose and this is what you want to do. This is how you want to show up in this world. So Audrey, maybe start with you.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. Well, I am a product of immigrant parents. So I just first and foremost want to say, as I watched the introductions, I was so completely moved to see so much diversity in this collective conversation. And so thank you for that. Thank you for just completely inspiring me right out of the gate. And I love what you're doing. So my mother is from Germany and my father from South America, so from Europe to South America. And so it's a pretty extreme spectrum. And then on top of it, just getting my own introduction to what it is to be American when that wasn't the lens that I grew up inside of. And I think that speaks so much of today and inclusion and everything that ended up informing a lot of things in my career that I didn't even know were informing. So I started off in the arts. I was so dead set that's what I was going to do, and became a professional performer. And shortly after that, I had a pivot. I was a young single parent, and I wanted something more substantial and something more count-onable. And I wound up getting into executive training. And I really delved into what it was to be able to design and execute paradigm shifts, the actual architecture of it, and how you deal with humanity and cultures, and where you can shift a tide. I was completely enamored with this kind of information. And so beyond just leading it and training leaders and training teams, I really became quite facile at designing inside of different people's intellectual property, and sort of hit the tip of my game there, leading for people that were renowned around the world. And at some point, I just had this epiphany, which was about 15 years ago or so, that the world was going to change, that we were going to be digesting information in such different ways, that we were going to be so much more socialized, and that the way to disseminate very complex information where people can have it be emotionally palatable will be something that will be so important. And I wanted to figure out how I could bring potentially my work in the arts and then my work in paradigm shifts, and what if I blended them together and came up with something? So I wound up spending about 2 years mentoring with George Lucas's producing partner, Rick McCollum, and I just wanted to learn everything from an outlier of what it was to combine, storytelling in so many mediums and understand the back end of it. And I came out, opened my own agency, my second client with no experience, no portfolio, no nothing, wound up being Larry Ellison. And it was a game changer for me. He totally got where I was coming from. He was willing to take a risk on this entire thesis that I had, that you could build a foundation of storytelling and it would have real data before anybody was really talking about that. And it was mainstream. And so it's just enveloped from there, where I worked and launched an island with Larry and a lot of his other properties. And then Larry talked to me about going into biotech and biomed. And he said, what you can do with complexity into simplicity could really make a difference in the world of science. And so I did. And I wound up helping launch a biotech company called Science 37, which democratizes the clinical trial process. And it was an extraordinary lesson. It's like learning a whole new language of what that is to understand the back end data of clinical trials and actually bring and open up new narratives, especially around diversity and inclusion. And then I left that, moved to Seattle, and now am working with Coach Pete Carroll. He's the coach of the Seattle Seahawks. And what I found most compelling about him, and the reason why I took this on as my next challenge, is he has managed to create a most extraordinary culture of inclusion on a foundation of love. And mind you, this is a man in the NFL. He's done it in the NFL. He's done it in college sports. He's done it with gang members. And so I'm actually studying the whole body of just this natural inclination this man has to do this in the most aggressive and masculine of mediums, by the way, right? And so I've launched, worked with him, partnered with him and his daughter to launch Amplify Voices, which is we will be curating podcasts. We'll be bringing up new talent, including his own things, and it will be completely diverse voices, every color, type of person, background that is out to really get behind a culture of care, which is going to be our first podcast, Culture of Care for Enterprise podcast. So that is me, Julian.
That is
Amazing.
amazing. So it's great to be here with all of you, and I am a big proponent and believer in the power of sisterhoods and these sisterhood networks where we also have strong allies, where we invite men in. I was happy to see a couple men in the video. You know, it's great to have more where they say, I am women in big data. I think that's really important to have a few on the call here as well. But so my background is as a storyteller, and I always had a love of words, a love of language, an obsession over that, in fact. And I was a journalist in San Francisco for 20 years at the San Francisco Chronicle. On the side, I wrote 3.5 books. I left with halfway through the 3rd book, and I've now written 5 books, all nonfiction. And, you know, it really was what led me to this passion, this drive, really founding this company that I have just founded, is my 4th book, which could be about all of you. It's called Alpha Girls, and it really took off, hit at the right time, and is this story of amazing trailblazing women just like you, who faced a lot of barriers and figured out how to succeed in an industry dominated by men. And the book is now being adapted for television by an Academy Award-winning producer whom I love, a woman. And so that it was really my 3rd book, which was called How to Make a Spaceship, where it was about P. Amandus and the private race to space, where I looked around, you know, and there were groups of entrepreneurs and engineers and rocket scientists and people in really cool fields. And I looked around at audience after audience, and I would say, where are all the women? And these were dynamic fields that were shaping our future. And that was what got me started thinking, I need to turn my lens as a storyteller on the story of women. And I need to find these, you know, these ordinary, seemingly ordinary women who manage to do the extraordinary. And this can be in big ways and small ways. And I started by turning my lens in particular on venture capitalists. And I looked at the data, I looked at the numbers, and at the time, 94% of all check writing venture capitalists were men. But instead of thinking, oh, you know, I thought that was a key point. 2% of VC dollars go to women-founded firms. But what I wanted to know is who is that 6% and how did they do it? And I need to find those women and I need to talk to them. So instead of thinking about all that is wrong, I wanted to look at what these women did to get where they arrived at. How did you go from navigating to trailblazing? So it was that story that opened my eyes and set me on this journey where after Alpha Girls, I probably talked to 5,000, 6,000 plus people, men, women, all ages, all walks of life, all industries. And I kept hearing a lot of the same questions. And that in turn really opened my eyes to a market opportunity. And I have just closed my seed funding round for my startup. And that is, it's called Mindset Alpha, and it's a platform for companies to better attract, retain, and support women and allies across all levels and industries. So the story of Alpha Girls changed my life, and I applaud all of you for being remarkable Alpha Girls and allies. So just super excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Every time I hear you both speak, it kind of gives me goosebumps, and it's a reminder of like, hey, just need to stop and think, what is my life purpose? Like, what am I doing? So thank you for that.
Sometimes issues choose you, I have found.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's like they find you, and this one, it just found me.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Again, thank you for everything that you do. And one quick thing that I wanted to mention is we will have time for Q&A, but after our conversation, we'll probably keep 10 to 15 minutes towards the end. So feel free to chime in, put your questions in the chat, and we'll take it after our conversation. So Audrey, back to you. I love you said something that you said during a conversation, which is purpose is really a practice. And I see you kind of walk that talk every single day. What does that mean to you? And how can one be more mindful about incorporating that into their being and doing?
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that, because that was quite a tremendous epiphany for me that hit really, man, I wish it hit sooner, but it hit around 38, 39, 40, somewhere in there. But I realized that so much, you know, if you think about, again, if you just go to paradigms, if you think about how many decades in history and from a viewpoint, a lens of design, that we have been constructed inside of a very predominantly or dominantly masculine choice, then you start to understand that so much of what is informing us, the thoughts that you wake up with, the way that you respond to things, the things that you discredit yourself for, the things that you will and won't say, all of that inherently was chosen and built before you even had any choice in the matter. But that's not typically how we think. We typically think like, no, that is me talking. I do have that insecurity. I really am not good with people, all of those things. So when I had this epiphany, it became so clear to me that part of this whole, you got to make it big, and there's a big ta-da at the end of the rainbow, and there's this place you really got to get to, and then your life's really going to be worth something, really came out of that masculine have not, you know, above, below, win, lose paradigm. That in fact, life inherently, nature inherently, creation and the way things are designed inherently are far more inclusive. They're far more nuanced. So when I thought that, I thought, well, hold on a second. I've been so literally, I mean, I would say quite literally beating myself up about I'm not enough. I haven't achieved enough. Why am I not as far as her or him? How come that happened to her or him when I've been putting all this time and effort? How come I'm working so hard and no one's just walked in here and magically noticed and picked me out of a crowd and gave me an opportunity? You know, those kind of things that we naturally just think of. And it just really became clear that like, there's no aha moment to your purpose. There really isn't. That purpose exists in this moment. And it's actually, which is truly, I would say unique in terms of my thought process of and how I apply it, which is I look at, and it's so timely to say this at this point in time in history, but purpose is very connected to stress. That it is in the moments of heightened stress where we are called to make a choice that you're either going to listen to your true self or you're going to give in to whatever is pushing you towards a direction, what you should do, how you should handle it, the culture you were reared inside of, all of those things. So to just draw a distinction that I like to think of is there's this research that was going on around self-containing, it's biosphere 2, self-containing the growth of plants, trees. So there was in any condition that trees can be grown and replanted in other areas. And so what happened with the scientists is the trees would grow to a certain point. I mean, they would just completely thrive. They were growing faster than in conflicting environments. They would grow to a certain point, and then they would just collapse. And they could not figure out, because they were giving them everything that they thought that they needed. until one day they discovered a missing factor. And that missing factor was wind. The wind created a force, a resistance that pressed up against the tree and forced it to push back and fight for itself. And when it did, what happened is it became strong. And when it became strong, it grew and thrived and lasted. And that one little missing element that they pulled out of the equation really gave everything that it needed. And I think of it the same way with purpose as a practice, that actually my purpose comes alive in this moment right now, especially when I'm under conflict, when I am in a situation where I think I can't leave this job because I don't have any money, or I can't say that because I'm not going to get in trouble and be singled out. I can't be the one that brings this to everybody's attention because I'm not as successful or revered or have these things that I should. All of these things that inform me in that moment and suppress me, those are the moments where if I listen to myself, what comes to life is my purpose. And so I've started to, about that point, I started to just slow my life down incredibly. I stopped looking at what other people were doing, other women, anyone. I paid far more attention to how I felt, which is something that I was trained out of as a manager, was like, forget your feelings, produce results, you know? And now it was like, no, let me really connect in to how I feel. Do I feel comfortable right now? What is my internal voice saying? And then the courage, like to really honor the courage that it takes me. Maybe it's not hard for you or you or you to do certain things that it was hard for me to do. But in those moments where I had to step way out of my comfort zone and just say, excuse me, I do have something else to say, or excuse me, I'm not okay with how that was presented to me, or excuse me, I'm not going to be overlooked. I'm not. We're going to talk about this until I feel like I'm heard. Those moments where I did that and they became less and less uncomfortable, they produced new and different kinds of results. And what happened was this congruency to who I am began to emerge. And then there's been this sort of, I'm sure this is what you're potentially speaking to, Shushi, is there began to be for me, like life was living me instead of me living a life. Like what Julian's talking about, that opportunities just started to emerge. People would just go, you know what, I thought about that. And I want you to do this. And people started saying to me, how in the world did you get that opportunity, Audrey? And I'm like, I don't really know. But I do know, based on the accumulation, or in my story, it was, I didn't buckle under the wind. When it was windy, I stood and I resisted. And in those moments, I grew. I can tell you, especially for women, but really for all human beings, but truly for women, that we do not practice listening to ourselves. Mm-hmm. We really don't. And it's very simple. You know, you're in big data. Your whole world is comprised of complexity into accessibility, okay? And this is it. Humanity is very complex. So the ability to actually say, I want to say no right now, but I'm not going to because I don't want to be a bad person. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be discounted. And then fight like the wind in the tree for yourself and say, no. And sit with that discomfort will change your life. And it's not going to change your life like you're going to be stronger and more resilient. We'll always be vulnerable and hopefully always will maintain that wide open heart. But that ability to look at it like, if I speak my truth, if I listen to myself and I don't discount myself, if I'm willing to bring forth the courage to be vulnerable right now and say something that I feel so embarrassed to say or so at risk to say, and believe that it will all serve inside my purpose, you will begin to see that you will know yourself in a way that is so intimate. It's just so intimate and so peaceful and quite quiet, I will say. So that's purpose.
Oh my God, that is beautiful. And as I was thinking about this conversation, I want to read something that just magically appeared in my stream. And it just reminded me of my mother, it reminded me of a lot of things. It's like, I didn't begin to prioritize self-care until I saw how precisely my daughter admired and mimicked my every move. And I realized that self-neglect wasn't the legacy I wanted to pass down to her. So just that is so powerful. It's giving me chills as I'm hearing you speak and So true, so true. So thank you for that. And then
I think a part of self-care is
yes.
finding your purpose. I mean, that's the best way we can take care of ourselves in many ways. It's not just getting a facial or going for a jog or, you know, I mean, all of those things are important in time to ourselves, but, you know, I'm a strange creature in that I feel I really love being in way over my head with projects, with new ventures, with risk taking. But I think self-care is, you know, it's fulfillment. It's, you know, when your kids look at you or your friends or your peers or whoever it may be in your life, you know, that you want them to say, you know, look at how passionate my mom is about, you know, this and the expertise. And she's working so hard on this and, you know, taking risks and doing these crazy things that are in way over her head. And then you just figure things out. I think that that is a part of self-care. That is, you know, it's finding, you know, it is living with purpose. It's finding your mission. And, you know, how great of a blessing is that if you can live and do something that, you know, is not only advancing yourself, is making the world a better place at the same time. So I just wanted to add on to some of the really interesting things that Audrey was talking about.
Yes, no, thank you so much. And then Julian, you have spent a lot of years like researching how men and women succeed and how they're different. Would you share with us a little bit about your research and what do you think the key differences are?
Sure, there's so many differences, actually. It's quite fascinating. And I had interviewed, you know, some of the world's most successful men. And then I went and since then I've interviewed, you know, some of the great female trailblazers of the world and across industries as well. And so for the sake of time here, I would say, I would mention two things. One I touched on, which is risk taking. And that is, I think women do not take enough risks. And this is societal. This is something that is ingrained in us from childhood, where you see, you know, little boys climbing to the top of the mountain and getting dirty and pushing each other off and jumping and playing and getting, you know, go out, play, get dirty. And girls are not raised in the same way, unfortunately. And I think it begins to instill this sense of risk-taking, fear of risk-taking, being in line. Perfectionism is more important when actually that's our enemy. So I would say that the women who I have spent a lot of time studying their careers, getting to know, are risk takers. And, you know, I would say, you know, Audrey is definitely, she seems like a person to me who is comfortable being uncomfortable a little bit. And I think there's something attractive about that. I think there's something rewarding about that. And so I would say risk-taking is one, and I could do a whole discussion around risk-taking and how we can do more of that. It has to happen at all stages of our lives, whether, you know, when you are seeking that promotion, whether you're negotiating your salary, in your personal life. You know, it is, it's negotiating, it's taking a chance, it's, you know, setting the standards that you want. So the second thing that I would mention in terms of difference is caregiving and the role that women play as caregivers, something that is both beautiful and that is a heavy, heavy thing to carry. And it's a blessing, but it can also be our Achilles heel. And, you know, it's something that can derail women if you don't handle it right and if you don't talk about it. And the second shift for women is very, very real. And it's something that is critical and that allies and that corporations need to be thinking about. And especially now when we are in this time of COVID, when 860,000 women left the workforce in 2 months ago, coinciding with the start of school, that compared to, according to labor statistics, 260,000 men, or 216,000 men. So the caregiving issue is a very different one, and how we juggle that, how we navigate that, how we ask for help. Sometimes women, you know, self-care, you need to put out your hands and you need to say, I need help, and you need to delegate. And, you know, a friend of mine says that she would overcompensate for her partner's kind of lack of work around the house, and she enabled that. So I would say those two things are really, really important, in that a lot of the men that I have interviewed, and again, these are anecdotal, so this is not universal, were bigger risk takers in their careers, don't have to check every box, you know, can see themselves doing something down the line. And if they've had a little bit of experience here, then they project that they can get there. Women, the whole perfectionism thing is our enemy. And so I would say, again, the risk taking, and then just the biological societal expectations around women and caregiving imposes restrictions on women that we have to navigate very skillfully, and corporations and allies have to be a part of that as well.
Wonderful. I have so many questions, and but I want to be mindful, and I want to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions as well. So I'll ask one last, and before we open it up for Q&A. A lot of us, I mean, myself included, we've all suffered at some point from imposter syndrome. So how do you think one manages or should manage these self-limiting beliefs that kind of hold us back? And how do we unlearn a lot of what has been kind of taught to us? And as far as what we're conditioned to believe, and kind of get out of our own way, if you will. So, Audrey?
So, you know, it's very interesting to me. I quite frankly feel like imposter syndrome is like a different name for kind of placing yourself in your ego. And typically I think we think of our ego as like something that's haughty and better than, but also it's sort of that personality or that thing we think that we're supposed to be, the thing that will help us survive. And if you make it very clean, just very clean for yourself, if I am speaking my truth, I'm living in my purpose. If I am doing the thing that somebody else says, like if I feel uncomfortable, then I'm trying to survive this moment. Quite frankly, you never feel like an imposter when you stop for a second and check in with yourself and what you actually want to say. And you choose that and say that. Now, you might not know the next answer, like what comes after that thing I just said, because that was my truth. I don't know how to do it. I wind up saying this a lot when people, considering my capacity of leadership and the position that I'm in and how much accountability I have, there's so many discussions about, well, how are we going to get there? How do we do that, Audrey? What is the data that's going to make sure that we know we're going to invest that level of money? And, you know, I've been in positions with no background to validate it, of billions of dollars and increasing 6,000% in business, to helping a startup and raise $200 million in the first 2 years and getting everything and the vision and the purpose of it behind it. So I've been in those positions to have that level of responsibility. And I will say that previously, before looking at purpose as a practice, that I would think, well, if I say this and I don't back it up, or I don't work all these extra hours and make sure I prove it and I cannot fail, otherwise I won't get another opportunity because I'm a woman. All of those things for me really came from survival. They came from trying to survive this stressful situation. And you can't create in survival. They've even studied the brain to say there are certain parts of your brain that just shut off. Your access to innovation, your access to creativity, your access to problem solving shuts off when you are threatened. So there is that kind of practice of stopping for a minute and say, just give me 1 second. And in fact, there's many times, and my team will tell you, where I'll go, I don't know how we're going to do that, but guess what we're going to do? We're going to start from purpose, and we're going to keep going down that road. And they're like, okay, Audrey. And then they're just so surprised as we get there and we're feeling our way through something, because if we all knew how to get there, it wouldn't be innovation, quite frankly, would it? So, so I don't buy into the imposter syndrome. I know there's a lot of discussions and a lot of research on it, and I totally understand it. And obviously I have a huge regard for science, but I use it more as a qualifier. Am I in survival right now? If I am, I'm going to have the attention on myself. I'm going to worry about saying something super smart and super right and getting validation from others. And if I just go, oh, I'm feeling threatened, that's it, Audrey. Okay, create, speak from your heart, say your truth. I can never go wrong, never. Because there's only one me, just like there's only one you. You'll never lose in that case. So that's what I say about imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I was recently reading a story about Don Thompson, who was he's the former CEO of McDonald's and African-American and came from Chicago's projects. And in his book that he wrote, he said, instead of focusing on, how did this Black kid from Chicago's, projects get to be an engineer, get to be, he worked in aerospace, and then he rose through the ranks and became the CEO of McDonald's. Very, very successful, all throughout his career. And instead of focusing on, oh, look at how few African-American men there are in the Fortune 500, and focusing only on that. Yes, those things are real, and we need to combat them. And that's a part of what we're all doing here. But it's also looking at, and this is how I started the conversation, how did he do it? How did he succeed? And he didn't look at it like, oh, gee, I'm the first, I'm the only. There's power in that, of course. But he looked at it like, I am bringing the good stuff here. I'm bringing the, the new stuff, the different perspective. And I thought there was a lot of power in that. I think the imposter syndrome is a form of societal oppression and repression. And I think it's BS. And I think we should say no to it and dispel this imposter syndrome now, once and for all, right here, right now. I think that it is something, if you are green in an industry, it's fine. You don't know what you're doing when you start. I didn't know when I started as a journalist really what I was doing. I was green. I would have reoccurring dreams that some today might call imposter syndrome. I was going to get my diploma, and then I learned I didn't earn my diploma. So you can all probably relate, but that's just being green at something. That's being a novice. So that is not, we need to get rid of this imposter syndrome as it applies to women. If you feel uncomfortable, I'm now a founder and a CEO of a venture-backed SaaS company. So every day I'm like, I have no idea what I am doing with this particular thing. When I get back to storytelling, which is a big part of our company, I'm like, oh, I'm home. I know what this is about, but it's okay. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay for me to say, I don't know right now. I don't know how to do this, and I am going to figure it out, or I am going to bring in these people who bring expertise. Just one more thing on that is make yourself invaluable. If you feel like you don't know what you're doing, that is okay. Specialize, make yourself invaluable, make yourself a part of the team. And there's a Japanese term called Kaizen, and it's being assiduous in application. And my belief is, and I'm sure it's the same for all of you amazing alpha girls, that there are no shortcuts. You put in the work. It is, I wrote every single day for 20 years. People are like, how'd you get to be such a great writer? Well, I worked on it every single day for 20 years, and one thing builds on the next. So let's banish imposter syndrome. And if you don't know what you're doing, when you start, that is fair. And you ask, if you ask great questions, that can get you far. You can tell I feel very passionately about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, both of you. So for some reason, can you guys still hear me? Because my laptop seems to have frozen. There's a couple of questions that have come in through the chat. Because now I want to open it up for questions. Can someone read those? Because I am not able to for some reason. Shala, would you please read the questions that have come in?
I don't see any questions.
I don't see any questions.
Yeah, I don't see any questions.
Send them to you privately. I can read
them.
out.
Nina. Okay, sorry, my apologies. I didn't, yeah.
Sure.
But go ahead.
Can I go? Okay. Yeah. So first, I'm so thrilled, Julian, to hear you, because my 20-year-old daughter is a big fan of you, and she has read your book multiple times and has been telling me to read it. And now I'm going to go back and read it. So one question that I want to ask you is, what's the best and most important advice you would give my daughter, who's a junior in college, as she will launch her career in 2 years into the real world? And coming from you, it will mean a lot. So what is the most important thing that you would like somebody her age?
Well, it's interesting. I'm spending a lot of time thinking about college students and working with college students. A part of the platform that I'm building has a college application to it, and targeting women, young women exactly in your daughter's position. So I'm developing a ton of content around that. I would say that one thing that is really important for her right now is to network. And instead of thinking, she doesn't have to have it all figured out right now, but I would say network as much as possible, intern programs, make these connections, the connections that she makes right now, whatever her interests are in terms of her academics or potential, does she know what career she's interested in pursuing?
Yeah, she is, between law and economics and data science is what her background is in college. And she's thinking of first getting a job, and then eventually she wants to practice law, go to law school and combine ethics and AI.
So I would say, again, the networking is really important. I'm a big believer in just reaching out to people, even cold, make sure she's on LinkedIn, different networks. And, if she's interested in meeting women lawyers or, women, obviously she has a connection through you, through tech, but I would say develop the network, look for internship opportunities, look for, I think part of the future of learning is on-demand learning, knowledge on demand. And, these certification programs, a lot of online opportunities, which are phenomenal. So I would say, really hone her expertise, her interest. She's young. And again, going back to, I think the network that she can develop, the internship, the jobs while in college. One thing that COVID has brought to us is the awareness that remote work does work, and you can be a great contributor from wherever you are. So I would target, a few women, even on LinkedIn, particular law firms or firms in other industries, and just begin reaching out. What internship program do you have? Is there someone there I can talk to? She'd be surprised as well, just to reach out to individuals that she admires and see if she could have a chat. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? I'm a college student. I would love to learn more about your career. There are a lot of really sincere, people who would love to, I think, give some of their time for that.
Thank you so much. She's going to be thrilled to hear this.
And she should join, connect with me, because this platform will be perfect for her.
Absolutely. I would tell her that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Audrey, do you want to add anything for youth in general?
No. I think if anything, does anybody have a question about themselves? Anything for you women? Of course, we always ask about our children. How about you, anyone?
Elaine, I think there's a question that came in.
Yeah, there's one question. Yeah. Yep, and it says, question for the panelists. Do you experience resistance when you are leading men? And if so, how do you handle it? It's to everyone.
Well, I'll just jump in. Absolutely, all the time. I think almost every single time. In fact, I thought it would go away when I would have really powerful men say, listen to Audrey, I'm putting her in charge of this. And I thought, well, that's an easy way in. And in fact, the resistance grew even higher, like a resentment, if you will. The way to really, it really comes down to kind of the basis of practice of inclusion is really getting an understanding, getting to know people. And first of all, not take it personally, because it isn't, it's inherent in the culture. Number two, being able to interact with them. So I typically, an amazing thing that opens up people naturally is to ask questions. So the worst thing you could possibly do is get out of the gate and just talk the whole time and have an uncomfortable meeting that you're leading and then walk out and have no idea where it's at and you feel uncomfortable in the process. Is I typically will stop and say, hey, Bob, I noticed you're staring at your thing. Do you have a question for me or something, so that I can start interacting with them and getting them to say something. When they say something, like I said, it's just a natural again, part of how we're designed, that the minute I ask you a question and you answer it, you're naturally opening yourself up to me. So interacting from that. And then I did really spend time ensuring that I'm meeting people, that I'm talking to them, that I'm knowing about their personal lives. I think it's so incredibly important. Earlier on in my career, I, along with everybody else, used to get really upset when, men would go by and say, why don't you smile? You should smile more. Or, why don't you talk softer, or what have you? And I'm like, why do I always have to jump through all these hurdles and these men don't? And at the end of the day, I thought, who cares? I mean, yes, there's things to work on, like Julian said, but the fact is that I can get more done if I'm kinder to people. I can get more done if I spend more time learning about people and understanding their self-interest in the matter and apply that to the things that I'm doing. So I think I've come to this point, quite frankly, where when they say relationships really are everything, I've never taken that as much to heart as I have at this point in my life. If you spend time with people, you will connect with them. You will start to build a bridge to a commonality, and they will listen to you. Some will take a year. When I worked in Hawaii, they told me it's going to be a year before anybody will listen to you. And it was a year and 1 month. And at the end of that year and 1 month, they said, we've never seen you take a break. We never see you do anything personal for yourself. You came here and you worked and you took all of the grief and you just went for it. And it's true. So I know not everybody's going to come around, but people will, because at the end of the day, we're human, and all we really want is what's best for whatever it is that we're up to.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we actually have 1 more minute. We do need a wrap up. There is 1 more question on the chat. So I'll read that. Please. While it's there. Yeah. And hopefully there's a way to reach Audrey, Julian, maybe through Shuchi, whatever you prefer, if people want to continue any conversation. But the last question on the chat is, can you provide advice on how to grow up the ladder and get promoted? Yes, this is in addition to doing good work. Just doing good work, however, is not always enough. What are the areas of focus?
I think that, one thing that women also, don't do enough of is being their own champions and telling their own, really think about how you all tell your stories. And that is just so important. There's a African proverb, if the lion doesn't tell his story, the hunter will. So own your story. And this has to do with advocating for yourself, and whether it is the job you've done. I like to say it's not boasting when it's based on fact. So bring your skills, your accomplishments, make those known all along. Don't be shy about it. And I know there's a fine line between letting folks know what your accomplishments are and maybe going overboard, but I think you're all very capable of doing that. So I would say, first, own your story. Think about the story you want to tell, own your story, tell your story, and get others involved in that along the way. And, promotions, there's a skill to negotiations, and I do a whole workshop on that actually, but I would say, being very direct, you always want your ask to be direct, and if you are asking for more money, you have that at the top. You don't wait until the end of the conversation to bring that up. It's just a little tactical advice. I think that's something that irritates everyone. Get your ask out front with your supporting data. And, but again, going back to the story, think about how you tell your story. And that's a big part of it. I could go on and on, but we're limited on time.
Okay, well, mine is really quick. Don't wait to get promoted or try to get promoted to learn to lead. The majority of people in management are quite frankly, even all the data that the companies look through, are constantly trying to figure out how to train these people because they're not strong managers. Come out of the gate from the very beginning. I spent an extraordinary amount of time studying leadership, reading on leadership, going to my classes and that I could before anybody ever gave me an opportunity. I did projects on the side outside of the work that I was required of. So there's 2 things: really learn how to lead, learn how to communicate in leadership, learn how you interact with conflict and how to resolve conflict. If you learn these things, you will quite frankly, supersede any other. I mean, you'll just like jump ahead of the game because people do not spend time doing this on their own. I promise you. And the second thing is always learn more than you're supposed to know. Always. I even when I owned my own company, I would leave at the end of a 12-hour workday and I would stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning and teach myself how to do Photoshop. I'd teach myself how to use different technology. I teach myself other people's skill sets so that I can understand it, even at a superficial level. What is it that they're looking at what I'm saying from so I can get stronger at it? Quite frankly, that is like the number one thing I could say. If you're somebody who constantly has to deal with people, if you're in, which all you are, you have to, in order to get ahead, in order to get that raise, in order to advance your career, in order to get that job and interview strongly, people have to feel a sense of that you believe in yourself and that you can do that. And if you know these things and how to lead, it shows up. It really, really does. So.
Awesome.
Amazing.
No further questions in the chat window. Shuchi, how do you want to connect?
Yeah, I feel like we need to continue this conversation, and if time allows, maybe bring you both back for another session.
Love to.
But so grateful for your time. This is amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you
Absolutely.
for your insights.
Thank you so much, women and men.
Thank you.
Yes, so nice to meet all of you. Look forward to connecting on social.
Yes. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
So before everyone takes off, I just want to say that we have prize winners of a few lucky folks, 10 folks who have won the holiday prize from WiBD Data. So if you see your name on here, I'll just give it a moment. Please email Shala and you will receive your gift. As you're looking for your name, just want to thank again the speakers, Audrey, Julian, for taking your time for your powerful messages. They come from the heart, and I think they've touched so many people on this call. Like I said, it's recorded, so this is going to reach many more folks. Just all your powerful messages from storytelling, self-care, communication, leadership, all are just such golden nuggets. So thank you for sharing. Thank you, Shuchi, for moderating. Thank you, Ryan, and also Radhika and Shala for putting this together. Hopefully the 10 folks have seen their names. I just want to conclude that, again, for a final toast for our Women in Big Data nonprofit release launch, that the 3 ways you can make a difference and contribute or donate are that you can do your company matching program for one. If not, you can go through the Women in Big Data site directly. All is tax deductible. And finally, while you're holiday shopping, if you set up just a one-time setup, smile.amazon.com, and if you choose Women in Big Data, every purchase you make, a portion will go to Women in Big Data automatically. So you can actually do all of these things, but just wanted to do a quick recap. And finally, happy holidays, warmest wishes, stay safe, everyone. All the details are on the main page of womeninbigdata.org on how to donate. And you will find this session there recorded as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Yes.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you all
for
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.